welcome again to the Perfectly Imperfect podcast. This is episode 3, I hope. So, today I wanted to tackle, it's June. It's July, not June, Jesus Christ. It's July. We're approaching my toughest month of the year. I hate August. I really hate it. And I can already feel my brain doing that preparation to hibernate thing. So, unlike Bez, I go through mental hibernation. I call it mental hibernation because I really don't like August. I hate that month. More so because that's the month my dad passed away. So, I've never really reconciled that since then. It never used to be a huge month on my calendar. So, now it's just a shitty month. And I can practically feel my mental strength and the emotional torment is already on its way. I can feel it. It's like, yeah, we're going into the 6th year now. So I hate that month. So yeah. Anyway, as I'm talking about my dad and all that stuff, I had a fun topic to discuss today. We're going to talk about porn, ways to consume it. I just need to give you a warning. This is not going to be my podcast itself is already age restricted, but this is not going to be like anything explicit or naughty. I'm just going to talk about regular pornography. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So, first things first, I like porn. I like watching porn. I like reading and I like listening erotic stuff. Listening is kind of new to me, by the way. Still getting used to it. If you want to feel cringe, listen to an erotic audiobook. I kid you not. Your entire body will not be receptive to that. Well, for me, that is. And I'll explain why later. So, I consume my porn in different ways. I found across porn when. Okay, so fair warning. If you're a family member and you're right here, and you're listening to this, you go ahead at your own peril. Do not ask me questions once this is done. Do not come to me and inquire and confirm about what I am going to say today. I say this because I will not be truthful with you. I will lie. This is the only time I'll get to say the truth. So if you want to listen, listen in. But do not ask me later. Don't ask me later. Just fair warning to my friends, to my family members, to anyone who knows me and wants to find out the truth. I will not tell you the truth. This is the only place I will tell you the truth. This is the only place I'll talk about it. So, I'm saying this because I do not want awkward conversations in person or in face. So, fair warning. You go on ahead to the next rest of this listening, experimental excitement conversation at your own peril. Fair warning. So, my first introduction to porn was around, I don't know, I think I was like 8, 9-ish. Okay, age is below 15. That's what I'm going to be honest with. I had already learned about porn by then. I don't know about you guys. Some people have different ways of how they stumble into porn, right? I didn't stumble into it per se, but I was raised in a military barracks. It was the Air Force. It was right next to East Lee, and it was a very small community. I lived there for a while, so, and I remember it was at that period in time when it was actually the situation, the entire introduction to porn was happening. I was invited by my friend to watch a movie. It was a very boring, gloomy weekend. My mom wasn't around. My parents weren't around at that point in time. I was at Shags, and I was a kid who only got out to a friend's house when my parents weren't around. Like, if I was caught out at a friend's place or outside at a wrong hour, there would be shame, pain. So, so I was invited. It was supposed to be a movie. I go in, and so how the military houses were, because we were in I'll say the bigger houses, the mansionettes. So people had to convert like one of the guest rooms into either a TV room or a study room. So my friends chose to change theirs into a TV room. Ours was a study room. So I remember it was me and I think four boys. Let me four boys my age. And as the tape went on, I didn't know what was happening. It was one of those old vintage pornography videos. An old guy pretending to be a pizza delivery guy, can't pay, dick in a box. There's an old mustachy guy with a pot belly trying to hit on a young French-looking girl, and then they have sex next to the pool. Just old vintage stuff, okay? And I was so confused because I didn't know what was happening. I will be honest, I was not that interested in genitalia until later on. I did a lot of things. I've done a lot of things. I won't talk about everything. But I didn't know what was what until I watched it. And at first, I didn't even get what I was watching. I knew it was a movie, and I think this this sense of naivete has is one of the things, one of my weaknesses that has led to a lot of wrong decisions in my life. But at that point in time, I actually appreciated it because I actually waited to watch a movie. I didn't go there knowing it was something sexual or something bad, tabia mbaya that I'm not even supposed to think about or talk about. And I think that's what fascinated me and what made me so comfortable with the conversation around sex itself. So as the porn started, it's always a federal FBI, blah blah blah, and then the brothel type music, and then the purple and the flowers, and then the names, and then this whole scene. Now the good thing about old porn is there was a story. It wasn't a good story. It wasn't a solid plot, but there was a story to lead you to where the porn was, to set up the mood. And I watched the whole thing, and I was absolutely unmoved. I didn't feel anything because I didn't understand what movie I was watching. Now, what made me aware that something was happening is I was the only chick seated on the floor. All the guys were seated on the couch behind me, like really separate, like huge space in between. Like one was on the armrest, the other one was the other one was on top of the other, the head of the couch and all stuff. But there's that. How can I explain? When sexual energy is inserted in a room, if you're not aware of that, I'm not saying there's something wrong with you. You're lucky. Now, at that age, I knew there was something weird in the air, but I, I can't say I felt endangered or in danger or something is gonna harm me. It was one of those weird, uncomfortable, but curious energies that I just wanted to know what was going on. So when I was looking around, I could see the guys were just hyperventilating. They looked very uncomfortable. Most of them had their hands over their dicks. I didn't know what. Look, it's not like I knew what a dick and a vagina was at that point. It's not like I didn't know what they were supposed to be. I just didn't know pornography existed, and the first time was very curious for me because I don't remember getting any sexual I wasn't aroused per se. It just got me curious about just how that can come to happen. And after that, it's not like I went back to watch it again. No, no, no. It was just I got curious. I got very curious about myself. Got curious about everything around me. But I wasn't comfortable to experiment. And at that point, I was such a Catholic girl. I was like, no, no. So it was just I would think about it. I found an interesting Kenyan written pornography novel, erotic novel. At that point in time, I didn't understand that erotic novels was a thing. Again, I these are things we didn't have internet at that point in time. Our library at school was very limited in its information. We didn't have like bookstores to go buy books. I didn't even travel much into town. I had not seen what town looked like without my mom holding my hand and all the stuff. So I was sheltered, yes, but I was very curious. So when God, I can't remember. I can't believe I'm actually talking about this. So uh when I got this erotic novel, I think I was in class 8. So I was around 17 years old. And at that point in time, I knew what was supposed to go where because we had had that talk. I had that talk with my mom. We had that, I'm going to show you how to put a condom on a big uh, phallus like um, wooden thing that people used to use to teach, uh, not to teach, to instruct um, HIV and AIDS counseling sessions to show people how to use condoms. My mom was one of those counselors. She did a bit of she did a training. She used to counsel like HIV and AIDS patients. That was back in the 90s, like late 90s when it was a huge thing, or like mid 90s when it was a huge thing. And I didn't know there was a female condom. That was actually quite interesting learning about a female condom later on in life. But I knew what sex was. I understand it was supposed to be penis and vagina, and getting into each other and all that stuff. I understood sex. I understood the physical actions that come from sex, and I understood why sex would happen. I had my first crush earlier on in life, and I think I was class 6. So I was what? Uh, I was 14, 15, 14, 15. That was my first crush. So I understood what sexual arousal meant. I had read enough from biology classes. I read ahead many years before. I had watched a couple of bit of more porn, and this is something I I would tell. Most of the times before internet, before I learned about searching your own porn and getting your own pirated stuff, you know, uh, I stumbled upon a couple of different types of porn videos, vi- VCDs and DVDs. Um, they weren't mine. Some were from friends and some were from my parents, which I don't feel comfortable saying now. But they had their own collection. They had their own thing, which was good. It was healthy. I don't see it as a problem now. Even then, I didn't see it as a problem. It's just it's healthy to have your own type of sexual appetite and things that turn you on. It's fine. If you share it with each other, that's cool. If you don't feel like sharing, that's fine enough. It's fine. Um, but yeah, so I'd seen a couple. I'd watched a few. I'd had my little female chubbies, so I understood what sex was from a physical point of view. It took me a while to understand the emotional burden of sexual intimacy. So it was a while. It was a long while. A lot of things happened in my life. I had boyfriends. I had sexual partners. I had FWBs. I had different sexual experiences and interactions with different people, and I learned a lot about myself. So when it came to my own personal consumption of porn, because I said actually making my own porn collection or getting to realize what is my king later on in life when internet was accessible in my own space, like home internet. So and I was like during like the most depressive time in my life. So it was depression and sexual awakening at the same time. Don't ask me how that works, but it worked. So I started getting my own collection. I started coming to realize what was my thing. And I realized I enjoyed watching videos. Videos, people actually doing the thing, porn actors being paid and creating scenarios that are supposed to. Well, I mean, modern scenarios is kind of stupid. They don't really get me in the mood per se. Like it's not giving me, and I think, and this is okay. It explains why I like what I like. So as I was sinking into a river or an ocean of depression. I was getting comfortable with my sexuality. Now, I wanted to know what turned me on instead of having to learn it to other people. I want to know it from like being aware of my own sexual appetite and what I like. So I first place I jumped on was Pornhub, of course, because that's the only place I knew that had like a diversity of collection. But back then, it didn't actually have that much. It had a lot of American and British and Scandinavian and kind a weird amount of Indian porn, but it didn't have African porn. And I'm not gonna tell you I enjoy African porn. Some I do, and it took me a while to get used to it. Because for me, porn was always white people. So when I saw the ebony category opening up at Pornhub, I got curious because I was like, oh, these are people I can actually imagine being together because of the skin color. Don't ask me. It's not me being racist. It's just because I had consumed porn from an American perspective. I had not seen a black guy in a porn. I wouldn't even pretend that I had. The only African porn I had experience with was that erotic novel that a friend shared with me back in primary school. I don't even remember what it was about, but it had some sex scenes. It didn't have much. I think three out of the entire novel. The novel was good. It was trying to talk about. It was talking about this guy who moved to Nairobi and got his first job. Him trying to, hit on a girl, survive his working environment, try to make a name for himself, try to support his parents in shags. There was sex scenes, some in there, not like three out of like, and I think that book was around 300 and something pages, and it's not much. No, 400 something. It's not a lot of pages, not a lot of words. But back then, though, I mean, I'm comparing that erotic novel and the erotic novels I read now. So yeah, so the reason why I don't like watching porn per se, and it's not about the whole dark skin thing and all that stuff. Watching porn is fine. I like massage. Massage category is mine because it's more sensual. I like sensual. I like sensuality and romance and sex, even if there's no meaning or attachment to it. That right after, like the whole peak and drop of it, there's a huge ball of guilt that hits me, and it's like post orgasmic guilt. It's quite uncomfortable. It is very emotional to me now. It wasn't a huge deal back then. To me, it just pushes my emotional buttons, and I'll explain later. But yeah, so watching porn became, especially when I was in depression, like that point of sexual awakening. I told you I was going through a huge, huge depressive curve, and my emotions were all over the place. And I can say that's literally where my emotional EQ was literally growing from its roots. Because I had no EQ for a long time. And I mean a long time. Oh God, the things I did. But yeah. So at that point in time, watching pornography videos turned out to be more depressing than exciting. It didn't give me the endorphins, the dopamine I was hoping it would. So I decided to try something else. I started going through. I remember the erotic novel. Okay, so I tried looking for specific erotic novels. I went looking for this type of erotic novels. I found a shitload of good writers, and I had a set of favorites. I had like a I had a huge folder of around, I think, 2 GB or so of novels. And good thing about this, I'll tell you a good thing about this erotic novels. They come in series. Now, people who experience erotic novels for the first time, I'm pretty sure the first introduction to erotic novels was the 50 Shades. Now, 50 Shades of Grey was okay. It was an okay erotic novel. I mean, it was a porn parody of Twilight. But I got a couple from like the early 2000 and like the 2003 4 one, and I had one favorite author that I liked before I found the second one. So we're going to talk about the first one and her books, her first series books that I keep going back to read and have been keeping me busy. Oh gosh, has been keeping me busy the past week as I was trying to get myself out of this depressive funk I've been feeling. So her name is Sylvia Day, She's an author, very good writer. I wouldn't oof, like my friend, my friends. If you love reading your sex stories, Sylvia Day is a person to go to. So I've been reading her Crossfire series novels. Now, the Crossfire series novels is five novels following Gideon and Eva. It's not gonna be it's okay. So the thing is, I'm not gonna talk about something that's it's amazing to me. It's not. It's just something that I personally like. It's my own opinion. Some people will not look at it as literacy gold, or they won't appreciate the cringe that comes with reading these things. But I enjoyed reading her stories because of the emotional place they put me in. And the reason why I love erotic novels, and I'm saying love in like they're purposeful for me. They're not just random shit I read to have to have an orgasm, okay? It's something I read because this is where I grew my sexual emotional quotient from. This is when I understood why emotions were so dangerous when mixed with sex without a purpose and a meaning to it. And look, most of these books are kind of nice. They're like good endings. None of them is like The Notebook or Dear John, where the guy dies. Okay, it's not like that. Well, Notebook wasn't about. They died in old age, so Notebook was fine. Did they get married? I don't. Did they get married in Notebook? I'm even asking about the Notebook. Anyway, so now the Crossfire series has five books in its titles. There's Bed to You. There's Reflected in You. There is Intertwined in You. There's Captivated by You, and there's One with You. Okay, kind of gives you basically what you're going to get. Now, these books are good when it comes to the hot and smexy and sexy and giving you what you need when you need it. The, the sex is not sparse or in between, they're spread everywhere. Okay? She knows how to write and describe her stories. She puts you in its place. She and I like the fact that in the first three books it's first person perspective, so you literally put yourself in Eva Tramel's shoes. I like that perspective. I enjoyed it tremendously. I love how she described or tried to explain the sexual intensity and the sexual connection between Gideon and Eva. There was a purpose to it. Now, Gideon is a typical, and this is something you'll have to understand about adult erotic novels. The guy is almost, it's like telenovelas. So, Gideon is a typical broody, rich, sexy white man, hot and sexy. He exudes sex. Like literally, their introduction in the first book. Like, let me find it so I can read the literal description from Eva's mouth about what how she described her meeting with Gideon. So she was so it starts off Eva is she's a socialite. She's a proper socialite. She was born to rich parents. She's been raised in comfort and luxury, but there's been trouble in her life before. She doesn't need money, so the aspect of there being stories about her being a gold digger is non-existent. I mean, some people would think so, but no. Um, so her first day, she's moved to New York from Southern California. She was living with her dad there while she was attending uni. Her parents were separated. Her mom had married a rich guy. Her dad is a cop. She lived with her dad for 4 years only. She spent most of her life with her mom. Her mom was married three times, and in her first relationship, she was sexually abused by a stepbrother. That's so, yeah. And Gideon, on the other hand, his problem is his dad was rich, but his dad started a Ponzi scheme, got rich. When everything got discovered, he committed suicide. Now, after his suicide, when his son was around 9, I think, when Gideon was around 9, the mom married someone else. And while she was starting her new family, because Gideon felt from a young age that he didn't belong, he became a trouble kid, and he had anger issues. So his mom tried to have him go through therapy, but apparently it turned out his therapist, both therapists, because he had two who were brother and sister, were both abusive in different ways. But the brother, the guy, the male therapist abused him while he was young, sexually abused him, and made him into a cold turkey. Like he had an enormous, ginormous sexual appetite, but he didn't have a healthy way to have it um, satiated. So he didn't have a very good social environment around him. His idea of sex was sex with no attachment. So he was rich. He worked very hard to make sure the cross name, which his dad destroyed by committing suicide without even fixing the Ponzi scheme thing, was not tainted again. So he was rich. He was ultra rich. He was mega rich. He owned like half of New York, according to the book. So their first meeting happens when Eva moves to New York to work for this new ad agency. Eva is living with her best friend, Carrie. Carrie? Jesus, I don't know how to say this name. Carrie. He's a guy. He's bisexual. He's gonna have problems with both chicks and guys. Trust me. What else? So she's forced to accept her stepdad's generosity by paying for her rent in one of those really expensive side of New York because of security due to the stepbrother's abuse. The stepbrother was still around. So to protect her, her mom became kind of neurotic about it. So there was what a huge thing about this Crossfire series is the the topic of abuse, the topic of psychology and therapy and counseling, the topic of healthy sexual relationship in intimate relationships, the idea of intimate connection that goes beyond just the physical. It becomes a need. There's a lot of talk about needing and wanting and all that stuff. It's just intense and intense in a good way for me because I like porn with a story. And that's my thing. The reason why I don't enjoy watching pornography as much is because it's very hard to give a good story about sex and not have it tampered down by ratings and moral ambiguities and all stuff. I like reading it, and in reading, most of these erotic authors are very free and they they really dive into it, and I enjoyed her writing. I really, dude, if you want to try it out for the first time, it's really good for both because it does get to a point where her conversation becomes first person from the guy's point of view. So it's really good for anyone who wants to explore a different kind of pornographic entertainment. That's so choosy to say. It's such a niche group. I know. Anyway, so first, how they meet is quite interesting. So Eva, from her Fifth Avenue apartment that she enjoys but feels guilty in living in, decides to time her walking. So she takes a walk from her apartment in her workout clothes to the Crossfire building. That's where, I mean, Jesus, it's like so obvious. She goes to the Crossfire building where her business is located. Her employment is located at the 12th floor. Takes that walk, gets at the front of the building, notices a Bentley SUV parked outside. She just stops, oars, and looks above and enjoys her view. Walks into the lobby, tries to get to her office, and she turns and she's like, "Ah, good, I can make this. I can do this every day. I can do this one. Like I can get a cab once in a while because getting a cab in New York is expensive, but I can do this every day." So on her way back, she stumbles onto a woman who kind of topples over her bag. So she decides to help by picking up things, and as she's kneeling to pick up the last coin, she sees an expensive set of, office shoes, office leather shoes. She does that pan up thing and describes what she's viewing. And I think, let me see if I can find it so I can read it, because I can't describe it as well as she did. Oh, here we go. So this is her describing this entire scene. So basically, what you're listening to is a less sexy voice of Eva Trammell. I was walking toward the bank of elevators when a svelte, beautifully groomed brunette caught her pass on a turnstile and appended it. Feeling a deluge of change, coins rained onto the marble and rolled merrily away, and I watched people dodge the chaos and keep going as if they didn't see it. I winced in sympathy and crouched to help the woman collect her money, as did one of the guards. Thank you, she said, shooting me a quick, hurried smile. I smiled back. No problem, I've been there. I just squatted to reach a nickel lying near the entrance when I ran into a pair of luxurious black Oxfords draped in tailored black slacks. I waited a beat for the man to move out of my way, and when he didn't, I arched my neck back to allow my line of sight to rise. The custom three-piece suit hit more than a few of my hot buttons, but it was the tall, powerfully lean body inside it that made it sensational. Still, as hot as all that magnificent maleness was, it wasn't until I reached the man's face that I went down for the count. Wow. Just wow. He sank into an elegant crouch directly in front of me. Hit with all that exquisite masculinity at eye level, I could only stare, stunned. Then something shifted in the air between us. As he stared back, he altered, as if a shield slid away from his eyes, revealing a scorching force of will that sucked the air from my lungs. The intense magnetism he exuded grew in strength, becoming a near tangible expression of vibrant and unrelenting power. Reacting purely on instinct, I shifted backwards and sprawled flat on my ass. My elbows throbbed from the violent contact with the marble floor, but I scarcely registered the pain. I was too preoccupied with staring, riveted by the man in front of me. Inky black hair framed a breathtaking face. His bone structure would make a sculptor weep with joy, while a firmly etched mouth, a blade of a nose, and intensely blue eyes made him savagely gorgeous. Those eyes narrowed slightly, his features otherwise schooled into impassivity. His dress shirt and suit were both black, but his tie perfectly matched those brilliant irises. His eyes were shrewd and assessing, and they bored into me. My heartbeat quickened, my lips parted to accommodate fast breaths. He smelled sinfully good. Not cologne, body wash maybe, or shampoo. Whatever it was mouth-watering as was he. He held out a hand to me, exposing onyx cufflinks and a very expensive-looking watch. With a shaky inhalation, I placed my hand in his. My pulse lipped. Sorry. Oh, okay, it's making me blush, Jesus. My pulse slipped when his grip tightened. His touch was electric, sending a shock up my arm that raised the hairs on my nape. He didn't move for a moment, a frown line marring the space between arrogantly slashed brows. Are you alright? His voice was cultured and smooth with a rasp that made my stomach flutter. It. Sorry. Ah, goddamn. Okay. It brought sex to mind, extraordinary sex. I thought for a moment that he might. Okay. Jesus, I need to stop blushing. Back to serious face, serious face. Okay. I thought for a moment that he might be able to make me orgasm. I can't read this with a straight face. Oh my god. Ooh. Okay. I thought for a moment that he might be able to make me orgasm, but just taking long enough. By talking long enough. My lips were dry, so I licked them before answering. I'm fine. He stood with economical grace, pulling me up with him. We maintained eye contact because I was unable to look away. He was younger than I'd assumed at first. Younger than 30 would be my guess, but his eyes were much wilder. Wildlier, sorry. Hard and sharply intelligent. I felt drawn to him as if a rope bound my waist and he was slowly, inexorably pulling it. So yeah, so that was a fast meeting. Now, from Gideon's perspective, on the other hand, he saw her when she got to the Crossfire building. He was in the Bentley outside, and his first thought was when she was looking up was how amazing she would look when she was looking up at him. So, all I can guarantee is when you read this series, there's going to be gratuitous sex everywhere. The words cunt and fuck and cock and cum and all that stuff will be in there. Is it beautifully written? Um, in some ways, yes. It is total cringe, to be honest. Given the fact that I couldn't even do this with a straight face. It's a good book. It's a good series. It's a it's a good series. It has a good amount of cringe in it. There's a good amount of drama in there. There's a lot of very healthy conversations about sex and therapy. Okay, therapy sessions aren't really paid much attention. We're only brought to attention that most of these characters go through therapy. God, Gideon, despite his child trauma, goes to therapy to appease Eva, and because he loves Eva, he decides to try out therapy, individual therapy and couples therapy. Eva, on the other hand, has been in therapy constantly since her child abuse was discovered, and her mom is in therapy because of his neuroticism. Carrie met Eva during group therapy sessions while they were teenagers, and they created a friendship and relationship because of what they went through. There's a therapist who's an abuser in there. There's a therapist who it's just like the relationship between sex, love, and the therapy in between. It's not like dove into. It is implied, and it shows the need for mental wellness in there. I loved it. I loved how it showed that two broken people can come together and have their own thing without having to be worried about what people think about them. It's just how that relationship is built and built healthy because they are aware of their trauma and they are aware of they need to fight for the relationship for it to be healthy in order for them to have a happy life. It's quite interesting when I take 50 Shades of Grey and I try to describe Christian Grey from this perspective. Um, is Christian Grey abusive? In some sense, yeah. It's just how the writer decided to to put the opposite sex against Christian Grey, because Christian Grey is a rich guy, right? Rich guy who has bondage and sadomasochism in him, right? He was abused as a child. It's kind of flimsy. The black backstory is not well fleshed out. I think that's one of the reasons. The difference between now Sylvia Day and one of my other favorite writers, Sylvia and Renaud, is that they dig deeper into the backstory, into the individual, showing you the individual characters. Now, with Gideon, Gideon is aware that he is traumatized. He's aware he's not a good guy. He's aware he hates therapy. He was literally abused during therapy sessions as a young kid. And when he told his parents did not believe him. He has a brother who's a dick. He has a small sister who's never had time to spend with him, and he feels like he's lost time with it. He hates his mom but loves her at the same time, so he can't ignore him. And he doesn't hate his stepfather, so he supports and keeps them comfortable so that he can have a comfortable life without being in their life. You get that? He's aware of his problems. He knows he's not a healthy guy to have a relationship with. Even um when he approaches Eva to have sex with her the first time, he knows it's different, but he still goes to his default setting because he knows sexual gratification would be one of his methods of relaxing from his tough job. But he wanted it with Eva, and the idea that not having Eva in his life is what changes him. And Eva, on the other hand, she's healthy. Like, she's healthy mentally. She's aware of also her trauma. She also has a lot of triggers that she has to work with. And there's this dynamic that Sylvia Day brings in the Crossfire novel that I find personally very interesting because it's something I'm positively into. Is the idea of willing submission and willing domination. Now, once I say those words, someone's going to jump in here and be like, oh, that's BDSM, blah, blah, blah. There is some aspect, BDSM is for different categories. Okay, it's like two pairs of two things that can work together or separate. You get what I mean? There's BDSM for bondage, right? B for bondage, D for domination. Okay? There's domination in bonding someone. And there's the Gideon. Gideon is one of those people who enjoys bonding one himself to someone else. So he is the ideas of ropes and cuffs have appeared. That they're not really used to it because, according to this, Eva was doesn't like being bound together. But every time they use one of those toys, it portrays the amount of trust Eva has or is giving up to Gideon in order to allow him to be dominating because he loves dominating over someone else. And he enjoys dominating over Eva sexually, even through like their banter. But the thing is, with Sylvia Day's story, there's a huge difference between Anastasia and Eva. Eva is a strong woman. Eva is smart, she's strong willed, she's stubborn, and she knows what she wants, and she's aware of her trauma and aware of Gideon's trauma, and she doesn't like bullshit. She loves the idea of honesty. And it's quite interesting to see how the relationship grows. It gets more intense and the sex gets more intense. And there's that notion of codependence between those two. They're codependent in each other, and sex is a huge factor. And people are gonna be some people like in the book itself. So it seems unhealthy, even from the author's point of view. As she's writing it, she's trying to portray it as there is something unhealthy in how the sexual interaction is so ingrained in their everyday life. But they also show you from their perspective how it is necessary and needed between those two because of how badly damaged they are. Their connection is from skin to skin. And I'm not going to go further into the story. There's like so much. The dickish, there's also jealousy issues and how to handle them, the drama in there. It's fun to read. It's really fun to read. I'm in the fourth book now, almost through with it. I literally gorged through it like because I was binge eating porn because I yeah, I won't explain why. I think you guys can understand the weather. The weather can explain to you better than I can. Other than that, so the reason why I brought up the conversation and modes of consuming porn and why it's necessary in our life. To say it was necessary, it's necessary in my life. Is just the difference between porn videos and reading about porn. So if you're ever interested or you want to try out a an erotic novel, erotic is everywhere now. So there's literally a porn site that offers erotic novels. Go visit bellsair.com. I'm pretty sure you already know what that is. So either way, just to end this on time and not to keep dragging this story on, all I'm saying is erotic novels are fun to read. If you're ever in a search for anything, and especially to start with, I will suggest getting yourself the Sylvia Day Crossfire series. Those are 5 books, like I explained. Bared to you, intertwined with you, captivated by you, reflected in you, and the one with you. You're going to enjoy it. If you want to try someone else, you can try Sylvian Reynard's Gabriel's Inferno series. There's a movie. This one has a movie out. If you enjoy watching it instead of reading it, you can watch it. You can find it on Passion Flicks. But I enjoyed reading the four books? Gabriel's Inferno, Gabriel's. There's 5 books actually because Gabriel's Promise was in there. Yeah. Um, Listening to the audiobooks is also quite interesting. I enjoyed it but felt the cringe way stronger, especially from someone else's voice and accent, and then bringing out the words. Oh God, it's so cringe. Either way, porn is good. Porn is healthy. You just need to do it with a healthy purpose. Okay, you need to do it with a healthy thought in mind. As long as you're watching it and you're not harming anyone, you're not being a freaking pedophile from any age, whatever you enjoy. What I'm saying is, reading porn is way fun than watching porn. There's no guilty feeling after, not for me though. Yeah, so porn is good. Read your porn too. I do enjoy some porn mangas out there. It's like a whole. I'm a fujoshi, so it's like the whole yoi genre that I enjoy. And there are like good cis comics out there. It's like Western comics and porn too. So if you're ever interested, hit me up. Let me know. I will be your guide. I will guide you to good fun sex topics. Either way, this is fun. Um, I hope you enjoy this. If you do, let me know. If you don't, let me know. If there's something specific you want to tackle or you want to talk about, that I want to be that African chick who can talk about sex and be comfortable with it and don't give a damn about what other people think about it. So just thinking it, I might as well do it. So, yeah. Thanks, guys, for listening, and always be perfectly imperfect. Yeah. Bye, guys.